If you could go back in time and redo the election again in 2016, what would you do differently?
Well, I wrote a book called What Happened, which outlines some of that. But very briefly, I would have tried to more quickly understand what we were up against on social media. I said earlier, I didn't. I mean, I hired wonderful, experienced people from President Obama's campaigns, and we were running kind of an Obama 2.0 election. But the other side, with Cambridge Analytica and the Russians and everything they did, WikiLeaks and the like, they were in an entirely different arena. And I did not understand that. I understand it very well now, but I did not at the time. And there were lots of implications of that. I think also, you know, in one of my debates, and I didn't pick up on this at the time because he said so many crazy things. Trump said, you know, if I lose, it's going to be rigged. It's just going to be rigged. And I thought, what an absurd thing to say. I mean, our elections, at least up until that point, had not been, quote, rigged. And I realize now in retrospect, he was sort of setting it up to be a fail-safe, the way he did in 2020, which I didn't understand. And I would have called that out more forcefully. And then finally, you know, in 2016, it was really unfortunate that there was just not enough attention paid to the consequences of electing Trump. And that goes back to the very first thing that Helena and I were talking about. He was such an attractive figure for the media because you never knew what he was going to say. You never knew what he would do next. You never knew who he would insult. And that's the whole performance piece. And, you know, I was the first woman ever in that position. And I was in a difficult, and I write about this, I was in a difficult kind of psycho-political space because I had to conduct myself in a way that people could imagine me being the president and the commander-in-chief, which meant I had a lot less room to kind of lash out, to, you know, fight back. There's that famous, you know, experience I had in what's called the second debate where he's looming over me and he's stalking me.
You stalking. Right? It was horrible.
It was horrible. And going through my mind was the following. Do I pivot around and say, back off, you creep, you're not going to intimidate me? And it was very tempting, but you know what the reaction would have been?
Yeah.
She can't take it. If she can't deal with Trump standing behind her, how's she going to deal with Putin? All that's going through my mind. And so I was a groundbreaker because I had, you know, people used to say, well, who do you look to for, you know, guidance about how to be a woman in politics? And there were so few to look to, and there's a big difference between a presidential system and a parliamentary system. So somebody like, you know, Margaret Thatcher comes up through the ranks and, you know, gets chosen by her peers within the Conservative Party to be their choice for prime minister. In a presidential system, especially like ours, you all start from the same, you know, starting line, and it's how much money you can raise. I raised more than $1 billion to run my campaign. How much money you can raise, you know, how you can withstand the slings and arrows and all of that. And as a woman trying to understand that, I think I might have had somewhat more leeway, and I believe other women coming after me, assuming they do, will have that leeway because, you know, there's
you've broken the ground.
Yeah, there's not just the oddity factor, the token factor, but so those are some of my thoughts. But it's an interesting
Good question.
exercise.